Hey community of awesome, what's up? This voice Marco. Welcome to our channel once again, and welcome to a brand new video. Okay, today we are doing the 7th episode of In Conversation with still in the lockdown, still doing the virtual segment, so to say. And today I have a very interesting guest. Okay, he is the CEO of Schbang, Mr. Akshay Gurnani. Schbang is one of India's leading marketing agencies. If you're working in marketing, you already know the stature that Schbang is at. They have a 300 people team. They work with 100 plus clients from over the globe. And a very interesting mind. Today, I'm going to pick his brains, understand his strategy, understand how he built Schbang with his other founders and partners. And I'm sure you learn a lot. Stay through the course. And without any further ado, let's get our guest on the screen. Hi, Akshay, sir. Thank you for being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And, you know, Schbang has been something which I've been following for a while now. You and Harshal, sir, have been someone I've followed your journey and your career graph, so to say. And it's very interesting. Your journey is very interesting. Schbang's journey is very interesting. The agency's positioning, so to say, is very interesting. And it's a delight to have you on the show.
Thanks, Sagar. Thanks for having me. I'm glad, many youngsters are actually doing these podcasts during the lockdown. Right. So I've been having a good time chatting up with a lot of marketing enthusiasts and, trying to just, think of different ideas, think of different things that we can do together as a community of marketers. And thanks for having me on the show. It's good to be here.
Awesome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. So let's get into questions, understand marketing better. Yeah. So, I mean, before we start, I asked this to all my guests, if you could just walk us through your journey, how you got into Schbang, your earlier careers, how, your personal journey as well as the journey of Schbang as an agency has been.
Sure. So my journey has been pretty long, actually. I'm 30 now, so I've been in the industry for almost 10 years. I began my professional journey in 2010. So I did my graduation from HR college in Bombay. Actually, I was the only student who did both marketing and finance because I've always been a marketing guy in my mind, but I always felt that I need to learn some finance because numbers are very important also.
Right.
I've always loved numbers. I've loved mathematics. I've loved numbers overall. So, I pursued both marketing and finance. I even gave my major in finance. I even found my placement in the first job was as a financial analyst, actually. Very different from what I'm doing currently in life. But I think those 6 months really paved the way for, giving me the impetus to actually understanding how numbers work. So balance sheets, profit and loss numbers. So I worked for about 6 months as an analyst and completely hated what I was doing that time. So I said, okay, fine, now is a good time to sort of, move out and get into the marketing sphere. That's actually when, I sort of switched to marketing and I joined Foxy at that point in time. So I basically joined Foxy, right after I quit my financial job. And I started off, as a content writer. Right after I finished my financial job, I actually joined Foxy. And back then in 2010, digital marketing was really booming. It was, the Facebook revolution sort of came in that time, 2011, 2012 is when we all sort of got onto the platform. And social media marketing, SMM as we called it back in the days, what started really picking up a lot. So I joined them as a content writer. We were a team of about 10 people in a small office, writing content, writing posts for Facebook, writing tweets. That's all we knew. That's all we knew about marketing that time because that's all that there was to do on digital. But I think those 2-3 years really, gave digital a big boom, and India saw a big spurt in the entire digital marketing sphere. So I obviously grew along with the company. From a content writer, I moved up to become a team lead, to become a group account manager. I spent about 2 years in the Bombay team. I had a team of about 18 people working with me. I was just 23 at that time. And typically, like how most other youngster wants to do his MBA right after he turns 23, 24 because it's a tick mark event in his life, right? Like a milestone to do it. So I was thinking of doing the marketing MBA at that point in time, but
Right.
I actually had the opportunity to move to Delhi, to Gurgaon, um, to start a Delhi operations for the Foxy team. So at the age of 23, I sort of moved over there to Gurgaon. I was the only person from Bombay who moved over there to Gurgaon and started this team from scratch completely. So, I was there for about a year and a half. By the end of the year and a half, I had about 40 people working with me. We had about 8 big clients, doing a lot of business actually. And I think those 1.5 years really taught me a lot about myself, because I lived alone. I had to do a lot of things professionally. I had to do a lot of things personally. Um, Actually, a lot of learnings came in those 18 months that I was there. Again, Delhi, Gurgaon as a market are very different and difficult as compared to Bombay. It's highly unorganized, highly unprofessional. But I learned a lot during that journey. And again, this is around 2014, and November 2014 is when I decided to actually come back to Bombay. And coincidentally, Harshal was moving out that time. His brother Sohil was also out of the job that time. So the three of us sort of came together, and said, let's do something together. And that's when Shebang actually happened in Jan 2015. So it's been about 5 years now for us at Shebang, 5.5 years. Amazing journey for us actually, for all three of us as individuals. We've learned a lot in the 5 years. I think the three of us are quite distinctive in what we do. So Harshit is the dreamer, as we keep calling it. He's the guy who sets the vision. He's the guy who is the business. Soel is the aesthetics, technical guy. So he leads the entire tech operation. He's the very creative kind of guy when it comes to design. I'm more of the doer. So I run all of the retainer brands, the strategy, the communication, the creative for these brands. So as individuals, we've tried to sort of departmentalize what we focus on within the company itself, and that's been something that's good for us because we're able to grow within our own jobs. And yeah, I mean, the past 5 years have been great because now we have a team of about 350 people across Bombay and Bangalore. We work with about, again, 100 brands across the board. So Jan 2015 is when Shebang sort of happened. We incorporated on 28th of Jan 2015 is when we incorporated Shebang officially. And the past 5.5 years have been quite an exciting journey for the three of us. The three of us are quite, we departmentalize the way we work ourselves also, because I think as partners, it's very important not to step on each other's toes. So Harshal is more of the dreamer. He sets the vision for the company. He builds the business. Soel is more of a tech guy with a creative, aspect towards work. So he does all of the tech work. He runs the entire tech department at Shebang. Also, he's a great designer himself. So he adds the value to the company. And I'm more of the doer because that's how I have learned my entire journey of really doing, campaigns, writing copies, executing. So I look after all of the retainer brands at Shebang. So the creative, the strategy, the content, the execution come under my purview. But the past 5.5 years have been quite exciting for us. We started with a team of about 8 people. Now we're about 350 people across Bangalore and Bombay, with over 100 brands, on the retainership. So again, the journey has been quite exciting because we've tried to innovate a lot with the kind of services we offer. At the heart of Shebang, we are integrated. Shebang actually stands for completeness or wholeness. It's the whole Shebang, as we call it colloquially. It's a 17th century, saying. So that comes from the perspective of saying that, can we do everything under one roof? And how can we give a complete solution to clients is what we believe in. So not only are we doing social media, but we're doing the media buying, we're doing SEO, there's influencer marketing, we have a production house internally, there's a lot of tech innovations happening. So yeah, it's the whole shebang that we think of. Yeah.
And in these integrated, and that's very interesting with Shebang is because it is this integrated solution, so to say, and that is what brands also tend to gravitate towards. I'd like to ask you about digital marketing. Digital marketing, as you said, started from tweeting out, posts, social media management, all of that, to where today Shebang is an integrated solution. How do you see the evolution in digital media and digital marketing in these years, and how do you see it growing further?
Yeah, I think digital has grown a lot basis the infrastructure that is being provided. So, back in the day, again, data was expensive. We didn't have the right kind of technology to really support, video format. Hence, most of the content we made was in textual form, right? Even images used to take a lot of time to buffer on a normal BlackBerry phone back in the day. So hence, most of the content we actually made was very textual based, non-motion, extremely static in sense, right? I think how the entire industry sort of moved towards it's actually moved towards smartphones, cheaper data, for example, with the entire geo revolution coming into play. The kind of data consumption that's happening within our country itself, 9 GB data per month. It's a lot of data being consumed, right, by everyone. So also 600 million people, utilizing again data on a monthly basis. That's a huge number. So I think a lot of what we do today is guided by how the entire infrastructure of the industry has moved. Which is why nowadays, again, video content has become the mainstay for most brands, right? We make a lot of short format, long format content. AR, VR as technology has sort of tried to at least, get its footing within the industry now.
True.
Brands are trying to, experience or at least, experiment with some, AR, VR kind of content. And I think that's how the industry has actually moved from going from complete static to more motion-based content. I think as content creators, it's also been an evolution for us to keep seeing how people are consuming content and seeing their patterns and actually moving our creation in that format also. Which is why now we spend a lot of time making GIF content, motion graphic content. Our production team makes a lot of motion graphic work also, and that's because the industry has moved in that way. Yeah.
We also work in the agency space itself, and agency culture, so to say, is very interesting because, it is a model that you can bootstrap on because, production is something you'd have to put a lot of capital in, but agency doesn't take a lot of capital, and there is a money cycle that keeps you growing. But in this disruption, so to say, is the COVID-19 virus. How do you think the agency culture, so to say, has evolved and is going to evolve, and how has it affected the whole agency culture? Because agency is something you can operate remotely, right? But how efficiently are you able to manage it, and how's it going? How's the virus affecting you?
Yeah, I think if we just take a step back and understand why is culture important, right? We believe that culture is a complete make or break for any agency. People really buy into a culture of the company. I think when your culture starts going downhill is when you start losing people. When you start losing people, you start losing clients, right? Which is why from day one, we felt that our culture has to be extremely strong. Which means that, for example, we have a very large space in Bombay. We have about 14,000 square feet of space in Bombay, but there's no cabin. So we have a complete open door policy, right? So every employee can come and talk to anybody in the company. Now that's a culture you try to build from day one. That it's a culture of openness, it's a culture of learning, it's a culture of oneness, right? And I think that's something we try to focus a lot of our attention on, even as individuals, that how do we be available for everyone? Because I think everyone's learning in their own journeys. Everyone is young in the company. So how do we keep everybody motivated? So I think because our culture in that sense is so strong, when we actually started working from home, it wasn't difficult for us to manage because from day one itself, we were very transparent with the team when it comes to working from home policies. We transported everybody's desktops, laptops home within 48 hours of this lockdown being announced. So 17th March, everybody was working from home. We were quite transparent in terms of collections. We were quite transparent in terms of the kind of brands who are reducing spends with us, for example. We tried to also give salaries 7 days before time because we know that people are facing an issue right now sitting at home. They've got to pay rent. They might be the only working member of their family currently. These are very small things which we do for the company, for the employees, but that's a part of the culture, right? It's a part of the culture of saying that we care and we love what we do and we love the people who actually do it for us. So I think when COVID actually struck us, it was not very difficult for us to transition from office to home. People adopted pretty quickly. We try to do many team building activities, for example, like, on WhatsApp, for example, we have a chef community we've created where people are sharing recipes. We have a workout group where people are discussing, different workouts that are happening. We have a photography club that's happening on Facebook, also Instagram also. So many small things that we're doing. We had like a housey night recently where about 120 employees played housey together. We had a Ludo
Wow.
challenge happening. Also, people came, made 10 groups and played Ludo together.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, small things. We're having an origami session happening on Monday. We're teaching origami to the team, planning a couple of music nights, for example. Now, all of this really comes from within the culture itself. Um, and many of these ideas actually come from the employees, which is a great thing for us because they're also thinking of how they can keep the team motivated. We also tied up with this app called Mind House, where people are listening to mindfulness activities, they're doing yoga, because I think mental health is a big thing right now that people are getting bogged down with work, people are feeling drained, right? So we try to give our team a way to actually unwind at the end of the day, so they can actually log in and subscribe to different kind of yoga, meditation kind of activities, all free of cost. So again, it comes from the culture, and I think this culture that we built is going to also take us beyond this COVID situation. I think some of the things we try to incorporate during COVID will actually be carried forward even post COVID, because I think they've become a part of our lives now. These 2 months have really trained us how to do things from home. I think going forward, we'll actually incorporate a lot of these things into our daily life also. Maybe like doing yoga every day, doing mindfulness every day, meditation maybe one thing also. So yeah.
One of the USPs, so to say, of Shebang has been that it is a integrated solution, so to say. And in building an agency like that, which, because it is so unique, you don't have something that you can refer to or look back at on how it was built. So what were some of the challenges that you felt were there because it was an integrated marketing company, so to say?
Um, Yeah, I think the integrated marketing thought actually came basis our understanding of what clients want. If
Hmm.
you see, clients really need agencies who can deliver the entire solution under one roof, right? Um,
Hmm.
if you see, most brands are actually moving to companies who can give them everything from content to media to influencers to production under one roof. Um, that's also how our thought process sort of worked. We said that instead of doing just one service, how can we have a plethora of services under Shebang itself, right? Um, but I think the challenge that comes with that is about how do you hire the right kind of people? How do you hire the right kind of talent who can not just think about their service but think integrated? Because at the end of the day, the client is looking for people who can think integrated, right? So
Right.
while they come to the SEO team for the SEO service, but if the SEO guy can't understand how media works, or if he can't understand
Hmm.
how content works, it's a failure, right? Now, unfortunately, how most agencies up till maybe 2015 were built were that they're really specialized in XYZ services,
Hmm.
but they didn't have this integrated mindset up to a large extent, right? So for us, that was a big niche. That was a big void in the industry, saying how can we do everything under one roof itself. And do it well, not just do it for the sake of doing, but do it well, because that eventually can become a big USP for us also. Um, so I think the challenge was of getting the right kind of talent who can think integrated, and obviously then training them to actually come up to speed with everything that we are thinking of as an agency. So I think that's one big challenge we saw there. Yeah.
But in that comes my next question: is hiring such talent is not easy then, because
No.
we come from a culture of specialization, so to
Yeah.
say, and
Yeah.
stepping back from them, saying that you now have to learn different things and not specialize, understand at least the basics of all of it. How
Yeah.
does then hiring happen? What do you look when hiring for?
Yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's difficult to hire someone who's a generalist. We do
Hmm.
eventually hire someone who's a specialist in that field.
Hmm.
But I think it's the culture again, right? It comes down to the culture saying that how is that person able to go and talk to anybody in the company and learn anything he wants in order to broaden his horizon, right?
Hmm.
So somewhere it actually ties back to the culture of the company being an open culture, of being a culture of training, learning, unlearning. That's what we believe in, right? Like so while we'll still go out and hire a specialist because we don't have an option, there's no other option. But then it's on us to see how we can actually get them to start thinking in a more integrated fashion, which again comes from trainings, which comes from dialogue, which comes from frequent one-on-ones, for example. I think once your senior team is good, then they start percolating that across the entire company. So again, as a senior department or a senior team, it's difficult for us to talk to all 300 employees, right? Because the company is really large now across cities. But I think what we focus on is actually spending time with the top 10% of the company, and then they start taking those learnings down to the rest of the company, right? Which is what's actually important in that sense. So yeah, that's a challenge, but that's how we sort of work around it.
So, this were some challenges that you faced as an agency, as
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you have to learn, adapt. And that's how the journey is. What were some, if you could put it in numbers, your top 3 learnings, so to say, out of entrepreneurship
Yeah.
in general?
I think number one has to be that identify opportunities and try to seize the opportunity. That's very important. See, entrepreneurship is risky. It's not easy because you are putting in a lot of capital on your own. You are putting in a lot of time and effort into your own business to build something, not knowing whether you're going to get a salary, not knowing whether you're going to get a profit at the end of the day, right? But I think if you don't try, you won't know. And that's what I believed right from when I moved to Gurgaon back in 2013, right? I said, if I don't actually do this, I'll never know better.
Right.
Maybe the MBA would sound great. Maybe I would have gotten a great paycheck at the end of my 2 years of MBA. But what I'm getting today as an entrepreneur through those 2 years of actually being in Gurgaon actually gives me a lot of confidence to say, okay, now I can take the risk because I've done it before in the past, right? So I think one big learning for me has been that, seize the opportunity. You won't get this every single time. Try looking for the right kind of opportunities in your domain, or could be a different domain altogether, but try learning. And there's so much to actually learn in the industry also today. The good thing is we have access to data, we have access to people, we have access to mentors. Make the most of those because eventually they can really help you groom to become a better person. I think a second thing which I've learned really a lot is that to be grateful. Whatever we've got up till date, whatever we've grown to today is, I think, is because we've been humble. We've tried to be grateful for all of the partners who believe in us, all of the employees who come and worked with us, people who believed in our vision. Because when we started off, we had nothing. We had a vision, nothing else, right? We had a 10,000 square foot office and nothing else, right? Besides the vision. So I think we're very grateful to the people who actually believed in us, believe in our vision, and took us to where we are today. So I think, certainly, opportunity, to be grateful, to be humble are some things that we really, really value as individuals. Yeah.
Yeah. You briefly spoke about the vision that you had, and that's something very important with at least startups, because that is what keeps you going when things are not going right. What was the vision with Schbang back then? What's the vision now going forward?
Yeah, I think what I was talking about earlier, I think the vision has always been to be a partner to the client. For us, it's always been that we've got to be a win-win partner for the client, because we believe one of our principles actually is that when the client business wins, we win.
Right.
And we've got to have a win-win, mindset to everything that we do, right? So I think the vision right from the beginning was that how do we serve our clients for whatever needs they might have. And many times clients come to us with things which we probably have never done before, right? So clients say, okay, let's do an event together. We'd never done an event ever in the past, but we said, okay, let's do it. And we actually did it for them. The client will come saying, let's do mainline print work. We've never done it before, but can we do it? Maybe. Yes. Now we actually have 3 large clients who are also mainline clients for us. So I think a lot of times, what actually happens is that as a part of our vision, we try to tell people that never say no. Let's take it up. Let's take it up as a challenge, because even we will learn from there. So I think the vision that we sort of set out was that we've got to be the one-stop shop, partner to all of our clients, and that's still something we believe in, because I think as a vision that will never change. The requirements might change, the demands might change, the pricings might change, the team might change, but I think as the vision, we're quite focused on being a one-stop partner to all of our clients' needs.
Right. Awesome. When a company is looking out for an agency, what do you think the company now working with 100 plus clients across the globe, there has to be something common in these companies, right? What are they looking for in agencies when hiring?
So, I think, clients are very open to now giving a lot more importance to digital agencies. Earlier, it was the mainline guys who were sort of running the entire show. They were the guys running the entire mainline communication. But I think nowadays the lines are highly blurred, right? When it comes to mainline versus digital communication, the lines are highly blurred. A lot of times we are the ones dictating the mainline communication for the client's brand overall, right? So I think clients are really looking for integrated partners. Again, going back to what our philosophy is of being integrated, I think clients are looking for an integrated partner who can deliver everything to them at a cost-effective, price. Obviously, because it comes down to pricing. Clients are looking at how they can get great work at the best price. I think they're also looking at young teams now. They're looking at young, nimble, flexible teams who have that, that fire in the belly to actually get things done. And that's a great place for, again, digital marketers like us, because, again, the industry is highly young. Like even Shbang, for example, we're about 300 people, but our average age is about 23, right? So the way these 23-year-olds sort of understand communication and marketing is something very different, right? They are the Gen Z, they're the millennials that we talk about, right? And they are the future. So if these are the guys who are actually running the brands, it's a lot simpler for them to understand what the brand requires. So I think what agencies really, what brands actually look for are integrated mindsets, great price, young and nimble team, and just I think a great body of work.
You spoke briefly about great price and cost effective solutions.
Yeah.
One thing, I see agencies doing wrong is either they quote less price or either they quote too high a price. How do you think the pricing of an agency should happen? Because, there are different ways. I'm not going to, I don't want you to get into the technicalities of it, but the basic on how you value your own service.
Sure. See, a client is basically paying for your time, right? We are all in a service industry. The client is paying for time. That's what they're paying for. Now, in a given amount of time, my team can do an X number of deliverables, right? So, say for example, the client needs to do, say, 50 posts on Facebook, say 20 posts on Instagram, 15 tweets, maybe 2 videos, a couple of GIF posts, 1 cover photo, hypothetically, right? Now, for me to actually understand how will I perform this task, I need a team. Now, a team will have a copywriter, a designer, a strategist, a creative guy. So what we do is actually we put together a team structure, right? A team structure which will have the different kind of people as a part of it. We'll see what their salaries are because they're paying for their time. And then we put our overheads to run the company, your rents, your overheads in terms of, electricity, water, everything as it comes under that. Plus your profit margin, which could be 15-20%, which is an industry standard for actually running a company, an average. Then that sort of comes together to give you a price. And that's what the client is really paying for, right? So if the client says, okay, fine, this is too expensive for me, then we try bringing down the deliverables. Okay, fine. If you don't want to pay this much, we bring down the price by 15%, but we have to compromise on 5 posts, 10 posts, whatever else needs to be, right? So it's all mapped back to the client's requirement, the deliverables, the salary of the team, along with the overheads that we are actually paying to run the company.
You talked about that the average age at your office is about 23, 24. Is that a conscious effort that you make to have a young team?
Actually not. So just the thing is that a lot of youngsters want to start their career in digital marketing. So by default, we end up hiring a lot of youngsters. Not to say that we don't have older people also. Like we have people who are also 35 and 34 and 33 also. I'll turn 31 this year. Harshal himself is about 32. So we do have some gray hair in the company. But digital as an industry is extremely young in that sense. It's very attractive to the youngsters. So hence everyone's coming into the industry. So fortunately, unfortunately, we're only hiring youngsters. Obviously, as you keep hiring for the higher positions, like your senior teams, your C-level people, they generally come at a much more expensive paycheck. Plus, they come with many more years of experience. But that typically is about 5 to 10% of the entire company. But the chunk of the people are actually youngsters, right, who are really running the daily business for you.
Do you think it is profitable, so to say, to put the execution part in a young hands team? Not in terms of profitability, but in terms of the content that is being extracted from the team?
Uh, I think yes and no. Yes, I say why because the kind of insights a youngster has, and again, the kind of brands that we work with today are very young brands also, or they reach out to youngsters who are the Gen Z. So when the content is being written by the Gen Z for himself, it's a lot better. It's a lot more insightful. For example, we work with brands like Tinder, for example, right? Now Tinder is dating app. Now, if you ask me to write a copy for Tinder, I'll never know what the insight is. But when a 21-year-old writes a copy for Tinder, he exactly knows because he uses the app himself, right? So we have about most of our brands are talking to Gen Z. So in that sense, it's very good to have youngsters writing copy. Obviously, for the challenge for us is how do we keep training the youngsters to actually write better copy, and how to derive more insights because they are still in their first job. They've never been taught how to write these copies, never been taught how to run a brand, right? So our challenge right now is how do we keep training them over and over again to keep getting better at what they're doing. Um, yeah, the good part is that they're a lot more insightful. They lot more energy in their step. They're a lot more vigor in what they want to do. They're also very motivated because they want to grow in the company. They want to give new ideas. So that's a great thing. I think the kind of energy they come with is great. But the drawback is that yeah, we got to spend a lot more time and effort training them, giving them a lot more confidence, giving them the motivation because for them again they switch jobs very fast, right? If you give them 2,000, 3,000 rupees more, they'll switch jobs, right? Or they'll, the biggest challenge that we face is that people want to go and study, right? So they work for 2 years and say, okay, fine, now I'm going and studying. Now, you've trained them for 2 years, you've actually got them to learn your business, and then they overnight say, I'm bouncing, right? Now, you can't stop them, but what to do is that at least show them the vision of the company. So maybe as they see the company is growing, maybe even they can grow with the company. So that's what our challenge is.
You said a very interesting thing with the Tinder analogy that you took, and that's something made me curious is how your campaign allocation to the team works. How do you allocate a campaign to a team? Is it by default that the team who is free who takes it up, or is it that the brand which the team feels for takes it up? How does that work?
Yeah. I think we spoke about the generalist versus the specialist kind of a thing in the beginning, right? Um, so sometimes we actually get people who are very passionate about a particular kind of industry. Like, the girl who's right now leading all of our beauty and makeup brands, she loves makeup herself. And she's been a makeup enthusiast for many years now. So she understands makeup in and out, right? So we put her onto the brand because we felt that the kind of insights she can bring on the brand will be better than most of the people in the company. Tinder, for example, we needed someone who can write really funny copy, witty copy. So we actually got a comedian. His name is Madhavendra. So Maddie actually is a stand-up comedian. He handles the Twitter account for Tinder. But because he's a comedian, he can think of that kind of copy, right? So sometimes, yeah, it comes down to if the brand is very, very niche or requires a very particular kind of a job profile, we actually go out and hire for those. So we'll tell the client that allow us maybe like a month and a half to actually, hire somebody for that position because it's a specialist role. Otherwise, most of our allocations happen basis, who either has bandwidth at that point in time, or who has an inclination towards that kind of an industry. Also, because we worked with so many brands in the past, we've already had many people who worked on these different kind of industries in the past, right? So we try mapping it back to what have their learnings been in the past. So if somebody has worked on beauty in the past, we try putting them onto another beauty brand because they'll understand the industry a lot better. So it's a mix of interests. It's a mix of what their current learnings are, and what their interests also are in the field. And it's a mix of again hiring for a specific role. But that's generally if the client asks us for those kind of roles.
When you get a campaign idea, how does the team at Schbang go on executing it? Like, what are the steps they take? What do they think of when helping the brand? How does that work out?
So typically when we get a brief from the client, we spend a lot of time trying to understand the brief. We spend a lot of time with the client trying to understand what does the client want to achieve from the brief. Then we try understanding what is the consumer insight, because I think everything you do is for the consumer at the end of the day, right? So if you don't understand what the consumer wants, all of your communication can fail because it might not resonate with the consumer. So we try spending some time trying to understand the consumer insights a little better. Um, then we again get down to actually breaking out the campaign depending on how large the campaign is, basis budgets, basis scale, basis uh, time duration, for example. We try breaking down the phases, right? So what will the first phase of the campaign be about? Is it about awareness? If yes, what will phase two move to? So can it move to consideration? Can it eventually move towards a conversion? So again, most brands nowadays are looking for conversions because the entire paradigm shift of content and communication has moved towards conversion-led advertising. So e-com, for example, direct to consumer. Um, so again, we try understanding what is the client's objective from the campaign and try phasing out the campaign basis which platform will drive that objective. So can I use Instagram, for example, to build awareness plus swipe ups to lead to a third party website to make a purchase, right? Can I use YouTube, for example, for long format content, which is rankable on Google? Probably, right? Can I actually drive blog content with influencers to get backlinks to my website to help in SEO? So again, it all comes down to what the brand's objective is. We try to figure out what platforms will drive that objective and then think of ideas to actually manifest that entire idea across different platforms. So it takes a lot of time because in a nutshell, it sounds very easy, but there are many, many processes to the entire job. But I think it starts with understanding the consumer psyche, consumer insights, the most important thing. Yeah.
What were some things that you think in this industry you learned the hard way that you wish someone would have had told you earlier but didn't, and you learned on ground the hard way?
I mean, I think because we've already been a part of another growing company in the past, we had a lot of learnings from there, right? I mean, Harshil was ex-founder of Foxy, for example. So he obviously had his own, learnings as an entrepreneur because he'd already built a company for 7 years. I had my own experiences of building my small team in Gurgaon, for example. So I think we didn't necessarily have mentors back then because there weren't too many mentors back then. But I think we learned on the job a lot of things. And I think a lot of what we've learned back in the day, we're trying to incorporate now into the current company, into Shebang. So right from the hiring, right from the culture, right from the transparency, for example, right when it comes to the mindset of the teams, right from the training aspect of it. I think all of these things have come as learnings for us, which now we've incorporated within this new company. And it's not new anymore. It's been 5.5 years, but for us, it's still a baby. We're still growing the company. We're still in the growth phase right now. So I think a lot of learnings actually come, on a daily basis. And these learnings could be so minute, right? They could be like, someone feels bad that you haven't said thank you to them on a WhatsApp group, or you've not said congratulations on a WhatsApp group, right? That's a small learning, but it tells me that, okay, fine, I should have even thanked that person on the group, right? It's a very small thing, but maybe it goes a very long way in actually motivating somebody at a junior level. But it's a new learning every day that we see.
How this gives me the insight to a question that how do you manage the micro as well as macro? So once you have to think about the future of a company, of the 5-year 10-year plan, and then you have to think about thanking someone on WhatsApp. How do you manage the micro and the macro of it?
It's crazy. So like right now I am on 120 WhatsApp groups, because every brand has an internal group at Schbang and the external client group. Then we have micro groups for smaller discussions. Then we have our senior team groups for senior discussions. Then we have an HR group, we have a finance group. So there are way too many groups which are buzzing the entire day. So even if I put off my phone for 3 hours, there will be about 500 messages that will sort of catch up on. So quite frankly, it's difficult because we're also getting emails the entire day. We're marked on almost all the emails. But I think for us, we're trying to figure out how we can train the second and third rung of the company now to start taking responsibility for everything that we used to do. Because I think only when we start freeing up our mind is when we'll actually start thinking of the larger vision. Not that we don't think of it right now, but I think we need some more bandwidth to think of it more often. But I think it's a process. It can't happen overnight. I think it comes from how you can train the next set of people to actually take up the role that you've been performing. I think right now we have a great second and third round of people also. Um, a lot of people who joined us 4.5 years back have still been with us. So they have been growing up in the company. So now they exactly understand how Shebang functions, they understand our processes, they understand our visions, right? So now they're able to translate that into action, which is a great thing for us. So I think it's been getting better with time. The first 3 years were obviously very difficult because we did everything. We should do everything right from writing copies to executing to thinking of vision to hiring people. I think now we have a little more time to think of the larger company vision. But I think it comes with having a great team. And if you don't have a team, you have nothing. That's what I believe in. Yeah.
In that, how do you go ahead, selecting this team? How do you go ahead? What you personally feel has been your say to say, that this person might be good on the team or this person might not be, or has it just been trial and error?
Um, I think again, like hiring people for the past 10 years, like you can sort of read people now. Like the moment they enter into your conference room and they actually, come for the interview, you can tell basis their attitude, basis their culture, with the way they speak, you can really tell what their vision is for themselves. Um, Obviously we look at resumes, we will give them a test, but that I think is secondary. I think a lot of what we believe is we try to understand from people, even during our interviews. We try to understand from them what do they want to achieve in life. Because if their vision somewhere matches with what our company vision is, even though they might not write the best copy, even though they might not have the most relevant experience, but I think if they can really match with your thought process, they can learn everything on the job because it's not rocket science. Trust me, you can teach anybody anything right now digital because it's not rocket science, right? So I think we've tried to give a lot of importance on just the attitude and aptitude of a person when it comes to just their culture overall, their own individual culture, right? And everything has become secondary from there. So yeah.
Awesome. What are some things that you think that you see the company is doing wrong in the marketing field? From the company's side, you think are some mistakes that you see generally the companies doing in marketing?
Uh, I think this COVID time has taught us a lot. And I think one thing that I've seen is that companies who have not diversified in the past 3-4 years are the ones who are struggling. So companies who have just been doing production, for example, are struggling because no brand wants to spend on production right now. Companies who are only doing media, for example, are struggling right now because clients don't have money to spend on media. So I think I wouldn't call it a mistake. It could be maybe lack of expertise. It could be lack of risk-taking abilities. It could be lack of a good team. So I won't call it a mistake per se, but I think as we've realized, this lockdown made us realize that we're so thankful for the fact that we have so many diversified solutions within the company itself. There is something we can offer to every client. So whether it be a media, influencers, production, content, SEO, long format, tech, whatever needs to be, we have it in-house. So while one department might not be doing very well, the other departments make up for the lack of the other departments, right? So in a way, we don't have to fire the teams. So we haven't had to let go of any employees in this COVID situation, which is a great situation to be in because once things do become better, we all come back and we all start working with full strength. But the good thing is that because we have certain services that are doing well currently, they are able to make up for the lack of the other departments also. So I won't call it a mistake per se, but I think it's more about just that culture of being completely integrated, which has sort of saved us in this COVID situation.
Awesome. We'll move towards a few last questions in the conversation. Is that, how do you think automation has helped digital marketing? And what do you see the future of automation in digital marketing? If you could give a few examples of how automation has changed the industry.
Sure. So, actually, one of our key principles is also technology to simplify. We believe that technology can really simplify, most of our job roles. be it using chatbots, for example, to take over the mundane ORM that we do, um, to actually automating tools internally. So we're actually building a Shebang app right now, which is an internal app for Shebangers, where they'll have all of their attendance, they'll have all of their leaves, they'll have all of their in and out timings. They
Is
will
that Shebang Wiki?
Yeah, so Shebang Wiki will be a part of the Shebang app, but
Oh.
Shebang Wiki was the first step towards the app. So all of the training resources are actually available online, so people can just go online and learn for themselves. Reports, decks, helpful presentation, helpful processes, helpful documentation are all there on the wiki itself. So that's one part of the entire automation. Uh, we're looking at how we can also automate the entire training schedules for our teams also, so they can learn a lot more frequently online during their own downtime. We're looking at onboarding a lot more tools that can increase the productivity of the teams when it comes to process mapping, when it comes to removing mundane jobs that the people are doing every now and then. So yeah, I mean, automation is the key, but I think it's very important to find the right fit, because automation is also expensive. If you are not building your own automation, you're actually whitelisting it from some other partner. So generally, it's very expensive to also whitelist the automation things. We're also actually automating all of our reporting systems now. So every month we send out a report to the client, which is being automated right now. So with the click of a button, the entire report downloads into a PDF, which goes to the client directly. So even that's being automated now, because we realized that the reporting took 2 days to finish. So imagine spending 6 to 8 hours every month on just making reports, right? Across 300 employees. That's a lot of time saved.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, again, automation is the way forward for sure. But I think it's about identifying the right use of the automation, and finding the right kind of gap that there is in the system, which actually requires the automation.
Right. And simplification is one of those, ways
Yeah.
I think is how automation can be included. Awesome, Akshay. It's been absolute delight and pleasure learning from you
Sure.
via this conversation. A few last questions that I'd ask is, what would your advice be to a young agency who is starting right now? And what would your advice be to a professional who is looking at a career in digital marketing?
I think for someone who's running their own business right now, I read a lot of Simon Sinek. I love his books. Now I'm reading a book by him called The Infinite Game. Right? It's about how you've got to think everything from a long-term perspective. I think we get too bogged down by the short term. We believe that quick money, quick solutions, quick goals, and that's what we're living for. I don't think so. I think we all are living for the long term. The reason why we actually became entrepreneurs is actually for something larger, and something larger than just money. That's what I personally feel. So I think for people who have just began their careers as an entrepreneur, I think of the long term, because thinking of the short term and thinking of the current losses is not a correct judge for what the long term can potentially be for you, right? Um, Give it 2 years, give it 3 years, give it 4 years, because right now to judge yourself in these times is not good, because anyway the markets are down, brands are not spending money, campaign budgets have come down drastically. The teams, we are not able to sustain teams, people are getting fired very easily. So my suggestion is, don't think of this downtime as the benchmark. The benchmarks are much higher than this. And if you can think of the infinite game, things will be a lot more positive in the next couple of years. So if you can work towards that and have that in your mind, I think you'll be a lot more positive towards everything you do. And I think for people who are just beginning their career in digital marketing, again, same suggestion: give it some time. Don't keep switching jobs, because I think you are spending time in a job to understand their own company, right? To understand the processes of that company. So don't let go of those processes by just switching jobs, because every company has their own culture, every company has their own processes, which you've got to learn from scratch again, which is a big waste of time for yourself also. So I think if you can identify companies that are growing currently, and spend at least a few years in the company, you'll end up growing a lot more in the role. You'll end up learning a lot more within the same role also, for you to be able to take more calculated calls for what you should do in the future. And I would say, like, don't get bogged down by having to do the MBA. Do the MBA, but maybe you can give it a couple of more years of work, because I think when you actually finish 3 or 4 years of work experience, and then you go and do the studies after that, the studying will actually make a lot more sense to you as compared to just working for 1 year and then doing the MBA, because in your class you'll have people who've been working for 5 years, 5, 6 years, right? So rather get the experience for yourself, and then go and study after that.
In agencies, in new agencies, the problem is getting your first few clients, right? Because after that, you can show your work, you can refer to the brands that you have worked with. How do you suggest someone goes in finding their first few clients?
It's a tough one actually, because getting your first couple of clients is the toughest, yeah, as you said. But I think what you can do is, there are many networking groups available online actually, where it's very easy to find, people who are looking for small jobs. So there could be like a 1 month project, for example. So I think to begin with, it's important to take up as many projects as possible, because the project can at least help you build your portfolio of work. Um, don't run after retainers. By retainers, obviously good to have a balanced, inflow of revenue for the company. But try having at least a few projects on your roster, because when you can show to your client, to your potential clients, that you worked with so many different brands, it increases your chances of actually getting more work in the long run, right? So a suggestion is, get onto many of these marketing forums, look at the networking groups on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn has many of these groups also. Try working with some of your friends and families, right? Try giving work at a discounted price. It might not give you a lot of money, but at least it might give you some work to show on your own portfolio. So my, again, suggestion is that try taking as much diversified work as possible. The money will come in the long run for sure, but at least try getting as much work that you can show on your own portfolio. So even if it means doing it at a discounted price, or like giving free maybe at some point in time, work for NGOs, do some work for social work, for example. They might need a logo, they might need a branding, project. Do some small work over there. You never know; it might open up a whole new plethora of work for you also going forward.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Akshay, for being on the show. As I said, it's a pleasure having you, and I'm sure our audience also enjoyed it. The last question to sum this all up is that, in this journey of, say, 32 years now, what is one thing that you know for sure in life, in entrepreneurship?
What I know for a fact, that I love being a people's person. That, like, see, again, like, work will come, clients will come, money will come, but I think if you're not a people's person, being in a service industry, it's very difficult to manage. So I think one thing which I've learned, and I personally love doing, I love, talking to more people. I love teaching. I love being with my team. I love ideating. I think it all comes down to the fact that you've got to be a people's person in all of this, because you've got to love being with people. And I think, just having that at the back of my mind keeps me going every day.
Awesome. So yeah, that's it for the episode. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Sagar. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Hey guys, I hope you liked the interview. I'm pretty sure you did. If you like the interview, you know the drill: like, share, subscribe. Our website is live now, www.thejuvenilemedia.in. Go check it out. You'll find some exclusive blogs, videos out there. Till the time we meet again, stay healthy, stay awesome, do some awesome stuff. Remember that you're one of a kind, live a kick-ass life. Be kind to one another. And on that note, farewell, mates.
Hi everybody, I'm Akshay Gurnani. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Schbang. I'm right now talking to Sagar from the Juvenile. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.